Hi, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all things self-defense. Today, we have Chris of Odyssey training back for part 2. If you all haven't listened to part 1, I highly recommend you go back. We introduced him and his background and went over so many amazing topics, so much that we did not have enough time. And we thought a part 2 was necessary and exciting. So thank you all for being here. If you're here from part 1, we have some new things planned for you. So Chris, what have you been up to in the few weeks we haven't chatted? Any new training or?
Yeah, it's been a little while. We're well into 2023 now. Training's been fun. I cut my hair, if those who can see the video content can see. So my hair is now gone. I had over a year's worth of wonderful growth that's now gone. But yeah, things have been good. Just trying to kick off the training season as best we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, I asked you before the podcast started how you feel, and I thought your answer was awesome. If you want to share that.
Yeah, I feel a lot more aerodynamic. I feel like I can move around a little bit better. No, I didn't want to. I was coerced. It was against my will to cut my hair. So I've been growing my hair out, and something that's not super part of training and stuff, but I'm an inactive Navy reservist as part of a thing called the Strategic Sea Lift Officer Program as a function of the college that I went to. And I don't do anything cool. I've never deployed, but I kind of like renew my military ID, do a physical fitness test once a year, that kind of thing. And I'm in the final year of my commitment. So I was just kind of waiting out the last, couple of things, and I was going to grow my hair out and not be in grooming standard. And are you familiar with a guy in our world named Will Petty? Runs a company called Centrifuge Training.
I know the name. That's about it.
He's a law enforcement centric national firearms instructor that runs a lot of LE based programs, specifically around vehicles and stuff like that. But he is coming to Salt Lake to teach his vehicle CQB instructor class. It's a big 5-day instructor development course, but it's military and law enforcement only. So I talked to them. I was like, hey, I am in the military, so can I take this class? And they're like, you need an active, like a current credential that you got to show us that you are in the military. And my military ID had expired. And I was like, well, here's the thing. Like, I can go renew. Like, it's like kind of like a visit to the DMV where you just sit there, they take the picture. But I was like, I don't want to cut, y'all are going to make me cut my hair to go take a picture to then show you that I'm in the military and I can take the shooting class. And they were like, yep, we got to have the ID. So I was like, all right, fine. So cut the hair off. You got in uniform for a day. And took my picture, and now I'm signed up for that class in June. So looking forward to it. I think I'll keep the short hair for a while, but we'll see.
Very nice. I'm sorry it wasn't mostly your decision, but I'm sure it'll be a fun new experience and perfect for a part 2.
It was worth it. It'll be worth it.
No, absolutely.
Exactly. No, thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it. It was a wonderful conversation last time. I really appreciate getting the opportunity to come back.
Absolutely. I actually was kind of not surprised, just like, I guess pleasantly surprised that when I was listening back at it, to prepare for this episode, I was hooked the whole time. Like, I was interested in hearing it all over again. And I think that says a lot. Not that I, am bored with any of my guest speakers, but
thank you.
I just noticed with this episode, I was like hanging on your words the whole time. So I hope that the listeners experienced that. I'm sure they did. Because that was my third time hearing it, essentially. I was going to say, my fiance is a paramedic, and he's in the process of cutting his hair. He actually has a mullet right now because he just wanted to try it for fun. And I think he's going to cut it before we get married. It looks so good, though. I'm digging it. It's, I'm letting his freak flag fly, and he's having fun. But I wanted to say he got it cut because he said he's a paramedic. So when he gives chest compressions, he said that his hair was getting in his way. So he's like slowly on his...
It is ridiculous.
I can't imagine, because as a woman, like, it's easy to just like throw it back. But I feel like men aren't, I don't know, like, I don't even know if there's even a huge difference there, but I can't imagine having my hair down while giving compressions. Like, I just can't. So he's on his way to like cut it essentially to where you're at. So the timing was funny. That's all I have to say.
Got it.
Cool.
Gotcha. No, it definitely, it's a lot simpler, a lot easier, all that kind of stuff. And I've had people tell me, they're like, can't have long hair because in a fight, someone's going to, be able to grab your hair and stuff. I'm like, man, I'm not living life that
Right.
on the crazy side, right? But I'm okay with having long hair. If long hair makes me lose a combative situation, that's
Right.
how I go.
No, and
right?
actually, I never thought, I didn't plan to talk about this, but that's something I did have a conversation with my Muay Thai coach back in the day about. I had really long hair when I was training Muay Thai, and we talked about, like, is it better to have your hair in a ponytail? Is it better to have it down? And he mentioned that if it's in a ponytail, it's all in one spot to grab, whereas like if it's down, it's kind of dispersed. And I remember thinking, like, I feel like either way, you're just kind of like screwed a little bit, because I don't know about you, but like I've had my hair pulled by accident. I've had it pulled in training. I've pulled my own hair, putting it back in a ponytail. It's not the most like fun experience. So, do you have anything to
Sure.
share about that topic, or?
No, I mean it's
Right.
all bad, right? But it's also not going to be if you lose the fight purely based off of that, that's a training issue, not a hair issue,
That
right?
makes sense.
Is
That's
that
a
fair?
really good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
No, very cool. I remember also, just the last thing I'll say about this topic. I remember we trained like hair specific defense. Like if someone grabbed your hair, instead of trying to pull away from them and making it worse, actually like grabbing their hand on your
Mhm.
hair and then moving in for elbow strikes, palm strikes. And that was really enlightening as a
Sure.
woman, because that was never taught to me until my like 7th year in martial arts. So kind of interesting. Is that anything you've ever
Interesting.
taught your students, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in like women's specific self defense, right? That's a whole topic. You've had a ton of experts, about women's self defense, right?
Yes.
And some of it is really good, and some of it, is maybe needs some improvement. But yeah, small things like that you wouldn't typically think of in if you were a guy, right?
Right.
We have other things that we're trying to protect, right? So the focus sometimes on gender specific stuff can be interesting. But yeah, so stuff like that is part of the game, but at the same time, there is a solution to pretty much every problem. And as long as you train that solution, shouldn't be too big of a deal.
Absolutely. I like it. That's a great, concise way to give advice in that area. I love it. So, kind of switching gears to one of the first questions I have for you. I noticed we jumped on the call, and you had your beautiful baby with you, and it got me thinking about
Yeah.
one of my questions on family based training. Like, now that you're a father and you're a husband, and just correct me if you don't want to speak on this topic. I'm happy to just cut it out. I would like to know, though, how has that kind of changed your feelings on what kind of training you should be doing, kind of like your focus?
That's a great question. And yeah, we can totally talk about it. So yeah, if you guys don't know, I've got a little 4-month old daughter at home, which is quite fun. She's a delight. And yeah, being a dad has certainly changed some of the training aspect. I think in terms of what I see most commonly change with people when they become a parent is their mindset changes, right? The people that are they're into self-defense, but not super wholeheartedly. They're not a training nerd, but they've gone to a class before. A lot of times having a kid kind of catalyzes more training and being a lot more focused and serious about saying, hey, I've got to be ready to protect my kid, right? And that's a common one. I think for me, I've kind of already been, in terms of the mindset stuff, I've kind of been in an attitude of self-defense for a long time. So that didn't change too much. But specifically on the skills and the tactics side, a lot has changed. So, think of something like a one-handed draw stroke is now a lot more important when you are carrying, a child, that you can't just drop the baby to use both hands to clear your cover garment and draw the gun. And we talk about one-handed draw stroke from concealment. How do we clear the cover garment with only one hand and things like that in training? But it's typically kind of this afterthought. It's this thing of, well, we'll get to that, and reasons. Maybe you're injured or whatever. But yeah, really drilling that and seeing, hey, what are the things that I need to change to really get a good, efficient one-handed draw stroke because I've got a kid in hand is certainly something that I've been training up a little bit. And this is a common one too, where people talk about what hand you should be carrying things in. Have you kind of gotten
Yes.
talk about that of like, hey, make sure you keep your shooting hand free because you're going to need to use it if you need to draw something. I actually kind of approached that topic in the opposite direction for a long time, and I've changed it recently. So I was taking a class. This was 6 years ago, and it was a 3-day concealed pistol class. And we were talking about that stuff, and somebody made the comment of, hey, make sure you keep your shooting hand free when you're carrying groceries, or you're carrying your purse, or you're carrying whatever. Make sure you got your gun hand free, and that way you can get your gun out. The instructor had a different take on it, and this kind of goes back to some of the stress and behavior things that go on in a fight, where people again get adrenaline going, pretty stressful, chaotic situation, right? And we have stuff related to interlimb coordination that a lot of times is really hard to override, where there's a couple of really high profile body cam footages of this, but basically people who have something in their left hand, or their non-dominant hand, something crazy goes on, oh my gosh, right? And they go to draw their gun, and they draw their gun and fire one-handed without dropping the useless thing in their support hand. Something like a ticket book, think of writing a ticket at a traffic stop. Oh gosh, that's a gun. And they won't drop the ticket book. They'll shoot one-handed and death grip the ticket book in the other hand, or pens, or groceries. We've seen it, coffee cups, or people won't put their coffee down, and you're like, dude, drop the coffee, right? That logic would dictate get both hands on the gun. But we see that a lot, where people don't drop things that they don't need to drop in order to use their hand physically. So that instructor advocated for, hey, carry things in your gun hand. And that way, if it's a small one-handed thing that's droppable, and that way something kicks off, you have to physically drop it. And then you have both hands free, and you can draw your cover guard, draw your gun and shoot well, and all those kinds of things. So that was actually the model that I used for a long time, was I'd carry stuff in my gun hand so that I would be forced. It has to be dropped in order for the process to continue. I think it's safe to say I'm probably not carrying my baby in my gun hand, because we can't really drop the baby. So yeah, I've had to change that up a little bit and say, hey, I've got the baby in this arm. I'm probably not going to even get the chance to put her down. So having learned how to do everything one-handed has been a little bit more of a focus. That was a very long-winded answer to your question.
No, I'm so glad you went on a tangent there. Please actually say more, because this is a topic I've never had on the podcast, and I've never even had in life, besides just I've only ever been told to hold things in my left hand so that I can draw with my right. Then again, I need to move my concealment garment, and unless I've been training one-handed and I have an outfit that actually allows for me to clear my concealment garment with my dominant hand, it's going to be a very difficult task. Sure. So I'm really glad you went into detail on this. So you're basically saying it's
that's a big one.
Situationally dependent, right? Just
of course. Right. Yeah, there's times for each thing, right? But yeah, really thinking through, a full one-handed draw stroke, so clearing the cover garment with one hand, pinning the garment in place with something like our wrist or the inside of our forearm, then using your hand, get the grip on the gun, all those kinds of things, is definitely something that needs to be trained.
So it depends on what you carry and train.
When it comes to some of the... Sorry,
I totally thought you were finished. I was saying it depends on what you're carrying, and it depends on how you train.
Certainly.
Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, and then actually thinking of how you carry things. But think of something real simple is whatever hand you choose to carry your stuff in, really visualize dropping it. That's a trainable skill, just like anything else is. So if you're a law enforcement officer or something like that, think of dry practice starting from writing a ticket. Think of starting dry practice is a really common one for civilian self-defense. Is having your phone in your hand texting when the timer goes off, right? So doing your dry practice session, right? You got all your stuff on, your dummy rounds. Okay, start position for this one is going to be texting. One of the most common places that we're going to get blindsided. And then if you want to obviously do that on carpet or not the tile floor, that's not the time to drop your phone. Right. And break your phone and sacrifice it to the altar of your dry fire practice. But yeah, think of be smart about it. But having your phone in one hand, having your phone in the other hand, having keys and a purse, all intertangled in your arms and stuff like that, getting ready for the car. Have that as your start position for your dry fire, and see, can I untangle myself from my purse strap and draw my gun Or, how does that work? Do I wear it cross body and I can leave it there? Does it interfere with the cover garment if it is being worn cross body? There's a lot to think about when it comes to how people, the start position for your practice is more than that competition style, hands at perfect rest, ready to go.
I love that perspective. I'm really glad we landed on this topic. So, something I'd like to add to this, when I'm walking out of a grocery store, I preach this to my sisters. I try to tell my friends, I don't want to there's, there's a balance, right? I remember when before I left medical school, our last exam, I wanted to get all my friends a gift. So I wrote them a really personal letter to each one of them in my study group. And then I got them all pepper spray. And then I told them let me know when you're ready to train, and I will teach you how to actually use pepper spray and what videos to watch. And anyway, so I love to preach this to my friends as much as they will listen. But for everyone out there, not just women, before you walk out of a store, it's okay to take 10 to 15 seconds to just assess what you have in your hands and think about how you would drop them if you were to have to pull a weapon or get away. And I know sometimes I look really weird at Target. I probably look like a thief almost, because I always take in a reusable bag. Just, it's easier than, environment and ease.
Sure.
I take that in. I always have a bag, a little purse that's sticks very close to my body. If it's a crossbody, it's very tight to me. So someone can't reach out and grab it super far from my body. But I think about how I will just I think about letting my arm kind of move through the bag strap and just letting the bags go to the floor, and moving to my weapon. And I also make sure my keys are in my hand so that I don't have to fidget for them in my bag. They're usually actually, not to go too far into this, but I don't know what those hooks are called, but they're just the hooks you have on your keys sometimes. Are they carabiner hooks? Is that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, carabiner, a pelican hook is sometimes what some of them are.
Yes, but I have one of those to hold all my keys together, and I keep that as light as I can, and I hook that onto my belt loop or to my bag, and then I unhook it and have it in my hand, assess what I have, and then walk out to the parking lot. So I have a little system I do, and I always try to tell my sisters, I don't care how weird you look, or if you look like you stole something, it's better than getting attacked and taking a few extra seconds because you're afraid to drop something, or just because you have to get your hands free. So yeah,
absolutely. No, I agree 100%. That's fantastic. Any kind of procedure that we can put together like that, it's unique for everybody, right? Yes. But any kind of procedure and forethought that we can put into it, super, super important. Like we were talking about last time, the class I teach, situational awareness concepts, we go through a good amount of that, of thinking about what you're going to need to do. That's the important things are anything. Obviously, we're talking about, having our hands occupied, but in the awareness space, the big concern is anything that's going to narrow your field of vision, anything that's going to make you lose awareness of your periphery as you focus on the fine details of any kind of given task. So digging keys out of a purse, texting, sticking keys in the ignition of a car, strapping a kid in a car seat, all those things narrow our cone of vision. So if you can ideally not do those in a place that is a transitional space, or a place that, a bad guy would be able to approach you in, that's always going to be plan A. Now, there are things that we just kind of have to do in a place that's a little higher risk, like strapping a kid into a car seat, all that kind of stuff. And basically preempting that and saying, hey, let me take a nice, good scan of my environment. I know I'm about to go do this, focused task, and then do the thing, and then scan our environment again, is always something that we want to be thinking about. So very well done for having a good procedure for that. Here's a question. Have you ever done combatives in a cross draw, or in a crossbody bag or anything like that? Have you ever done jiu-jitsu with bags on, anything like that?
I have not. Do you mean with my gun in the bag, or just having a bag on me?
Could be with the gun in the bag, mostly with the bag on you. That's obviously, there's trade-offs to everything, right?
Right.
And having a crossbody obviously means it's harder to steal the purse, obviously, because they can't get it off of you. The downside is, if you look at those in actual full-on violent assaults, right? They have a big thing that they can whip you around with. If you ever see the old school, really old school police duty belts that would have that cross leather strap across the chest, think of the 30s, 40s things like that.
Yeah.
They got rid of those because when they were in a fight, to grab onto the big leather strap on their chest and sling them around. So there's a trade-off to everything, right? Obviously, the purse is
Right.
harder to steal, but something you might want to experiment with if you've got good training partners in jiu-jitsu or anything like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. No, I love getting new perspectives, even if it definitely, calls me out a little bit. That purse that I carry, the way I think of it, first of all, I'm one of those people that I would rather carry like a crap ton of things in my pockets than have a purse. I've always been that way. I'm just,
Okay,
you know what I mean?
sure.
But I have thought about if I have to carry a purse on my shoulder, it slips off a lot. And while that's better for like getting away from your bag and being able to focus on the fight, sometimes that's a bit of a distraction and it makes me like carry other
Mm-hmm.
things in my hands in an awkward way. So I feel like there's like the solution to this would almost be like um, just having a really sturdy bag that doesn't like slip off of you, or one that's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a way to like find the balance, sorry, among all of this.
There certainly is, and
Yeah.
again, things are situationally dependent, right? And there's you get something to get something
Right.
with
Yeah.
everything. But
Right.
at least, and this is an important stuff for the audience, is like we want you to think through what you're already doing rather than giving you a perfect prescription of here's how the way to be safe. We all live different lifestyles, right? So think through what's more risky or less risky for you. Think of the experience and training that you have, and you can modify stuff to your thing. And that sometimes isn't easy. Like I am actually not very good at the whole too many things in my hands game. It's something I struggle with because getting in and out of cars and stuff like that. You got your phone, you got your briefcase, you got your keys, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm like walking to the office, and I've got like way too many things in my hands. So that's something that I'm trying to refine, right, and figure out. Hey, how do we set this up for success? One of the things for me, like we're all a nerd about something in the industry. Some instructors are really super nerds about, low light or structure tactics or combatives or whatever. Vehicles is a thing that I love to really hone in on. And I've taken a lot of vehicle-based training and looking at like, hey, getting out of the vehicle is really should become a priority once the car's in park. If the car's in drive and anything bad happens, skinny pedal on the right, and you're gone, right? Pretty easy. Once the car's in park, things become a lot more difficult. So I always am a person that like, as soon as the car gets in park, my seatbelt's already off and I'm trying to get out of the vehicle in as little time as possible. And that actually sets me up for failure when I've got way too many things to grab and balance and all that kind of stuff. So it's something I'm working on. But yeah, things like that are super important. Parking lot tactics are kind of an underserved thing. But make sure people think through their procedure for vehicle stuff, for getting in and out of stores is all really important.
Absolutely. I have so many directions I want to go in from here. I do want to
Sure.
go back before we move on too much to purse carry. And the reason I am particularly passionate about this right now is because I have so many purse brands write me. And while I'm flattered because, that's someone's brand that they've created that they truly are trying to do something good with and they want me to represent that. Um, I have always just generally said no to purse carry. I don't have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
content on my page to support that. But what I always say is if the target is the purse and not you, then you're giving away your weapon, you're arming someone potentially. And also,
Yep.
This is another perspective I just picked up from you. Now they have something to kind of like grab onto. And it also has to do with, your purse not being on you all the time. There's that factor of displacement, like where's the purse when you get home, if you have children, so many things where like I always just
Totally.
kind of resort to saying overall no. But do you have a lot of women ask you about purse carry? And if so, what do you normally tell them?
Yeah, sometimes. And it's a common question, especially in the basic classes, people coming to get their permit to carry. They've never taken a class before. I got to say, I loved your episode with Tatiana Whitlock, where she got to dive deep into that. She's a great resource for that. If you guys haven't listened to the Tatiana Whitlock episode, 100% recommend it. But yeah, that person now becomes a child, right? It is now a thing that you have to care for as intently as a baby, right? You can't put it down, can't really take your eyes off it. The risk of it getting stolen, all that kind of stuff is super high. So it's has a lot more complexity than on body carry, and not a lot of advantages, right? So I do have friends that do off body carry, but I've you can think about something like a scalable setup where, like, I have friends who carry in, they're in business clothes and they can't really carry a full size gun. So they carry something like a small lightweight revolver in a pocket holster, and they'll carry that, and it's got 8 rounds of 22 Magnum or something like that. Not the worst gun in the world, but it's a little underpowered. But then they'll have something like a Glock 19 with a red dot and a weapon and a flashlight and stuff like that in an off-body bag, or a small, like we've seen, like the small, PDWs and bag guns, things like the Flux Raider, where now we have something that we can actually get on our shoulder and get a lot more capability out of. So if you are going to off-body carry, I would say that I wouldn't carry a small revolver in a purse. You get kind of the worst of both worlds, right? If you're going to off-body carry, I'd carry a big full-size fighting handgun, or even something bigger, a small, bag rifle, 300 Blackout, something like that. But it is definitely got a lot of disadvantages, and that it needs to be drilled really well to get good enough at getting the gun out in enough time to make a difference, right?
I've kind of finessed some of my bags into kind of like off-body carry bags, and I only use them in like very unique situations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed, though, the practicing part of it is imperative, because there have been bags where I ordered them for the purpose of carrying in them, to like test it out. And then when they
Mm-hmm.
got in, they were a lot smaller than what I expected. And I could barely get my hand in the main compartment to pull the gun out. So it took me like a
Gotcha.
couple seconds to like get it out, because the gun itself kept getting hooked onto parts of the bag. And of course, I did this with the blue gun. And if I did it with my gun, it was unloaded and everything. But I just remember like
Sure.
tossing it to the side and being like, nope, never mind. So it also like depends on the bag, and if there is a safe spot in the bag where you're not like trying to sift through I almost said the wrong word sift through for your your gun through your
Sure.
like chapstick and like a mirror or something else in there. So it's a lot of
Totally.
aspects to it. I like to bring it
Yeah,
up
lots to think
periodically.
about. It's definitely something it's a very niche thing, and in my mind, the only advantage you get is the ability to carry a bigger gun than you would have gotten away with on body. Short of that, I mean, the draw stroke time's a lot lower. It's a lot less consistent, especially if you think about something like talk about the dry fire and the difference in start position, where think of drawing out of a purse lying on your back, or in a seated position. Like, think of trying to draw it if it's in the passenger seat of your car and you're in the driver's seat. Can you reach over and draw it out of the purse consistently? So a lot of things change when you start to change body position and start position with off body carry that are relatively consistent across different positions. If it's on body carry, appendix carry is kind of, almost no matter what position you're in, small tweaks, right? But it works pretty well, and that's why it's really popular. But yeah, off body carries is just, in general, not my gig.
Sure. No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Another interesting thing I've seen on Instagram, it's one of those like videos that's like, it's so cool and specific that you watch it and you're just like, this is a whole new world. But I've seen videos where parents will bring their kids or spouses like into their training, and they'll work target to target transitions and movement with their kid. And I
Mhm.
usually see like the child um holding like onto their parents like back jean pocket, and then like following the parent. What do you think of that? Do you know anything about it? Just go for it. Talk about it.
Yeah, that's a great question. In general, this is a complicated topic, and this is kind of this is a choose your own adventure kind of problem that has a lot of different solutions, and it's unfortunately very complex. But what we call third party issues. So this is anybody that is not you, that you are responsible for, who's also not a teammate. They are not armed. You can't say, hey, go cover the left flank. You got to take care of them. That can range anything from a small child all the way down to infant, or through, toddler to, small child deal. It can be, a spouse who can be adult and athletic and they can move around and stuff like that, but they're just not going to help you in the fight. Or it could be, very old, frail, unathletic family members, friends that don't have the athleticism to. If you can't really tell them to run. So how do you manage that, right? In general, we're going to speak in generalities. I don't like to attach myself to a third party. What that's going to do most often is limit your mobility and increase risk to the third party. Because you are going to be the thing that solves this problem, and this problem is really dangerous, meaning you're going to be the dude that's going to go do all the dangerous stuff, right? So bolting them onto you while you go slay dragons is just a higher risk thing for them. So I prefer, if we can at all possible, direct a third party to escape on their own. That's kind of plan A. The short answer people talk about, like, if you see me draw my gun in public, run away from me. If you see me get my gun out, I'm about to get shot up. Like, that's the reason I'm getting my gun out. So there's gonna be a bunch of bullets coming my way. So run away from me. Now, are they always going to do that? Probably not. A lot of times your wife might, honey, and hide behind you and all of that. Or you may just not be able to do that. It could be a confined space. There's a lot of issues here. So in general, that's my first answer, is have them run away from you. If you can direct them well, that's a good thing. But sometimes you may have to physically move them. So to infant, toddler, infirm adult, all that kind of stuff. You may have to control the situation enough to buy yourself enough time to physically move them. So have you ever, I know we talked about like Craig Douglas last time, but have you seen his, it's not just his, but managing a don't shoot yet problem? You ever heard that term before?
Not that term. The concept is, it sounds familiar. I'd love to hear more though.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Basically, this is a really common thing in law enforcement and in the civilian world, and it especially gets underserved in the civilian world, is how do you manage a person that maybe was a threat a moment ago, maybe is in a place where they might become a threat, or anything where this person is not shootable at this moment, but they might be shootable 1 second from now. That's a really high risk thing to do, and it's a complex issue, especially as a civilian where you don't have support. In law enforcement, they do it all the time. Yelling at people, drawing guns, show me your hands. Walk away from the vehicle. Giving people commands and stuff like that. They do that all the time, but they also have partners and a lot of authority behind them, and all that kind of stuff. So this is not recommended necessarily. I don't recommend that your plan A should be holding people at gunpoint and telling them where to go, but that is a procedure that is trainable and is drillable and can give you a lot of advantages. So you could think of something where maybe this is something like a home invasion, and I hear the door get kicked in. I wake up, grab my gun, go down the hallway, and I see a dude in the middle of my hallway. As I turn on my weapon-mounted flashlight, he freaks out, throws his hands above his head, gets on his knees, and starts begging and crying, "Dude, please, I'm a meth addict. I was just looking for a TV." So now we're in this kind of standoff. Probably not going to just execute that guy. That's for me, morally, probably not going to shoot that dude. But he's maybe a step or two away from my kid's bedroom, and my kid is, a 6-year-old who's waking up, scared, confused, probably going to try and get to dad, right? But I need to control their movement, right? So you start thinking about, okay, how do we, at one step at a time, control the situation, buy myself time, separate people who need to be separated, and start to work the problem, methodically, where I might tell that dude, hey, turn around, put your hands above your head, turn around, take 5 steps down the hallway. And now he's away from the doorway where he might be able to jump into my kid's bedroom. Now I might say, don't move or I'll shoot you. Johnny, come to dad's bedroom. Kid runs to the bedroom behind me. Okay. You can start to do stuff like that. So yeah, that's in, there's a lot of that in Craig's armed movement and structures class. It's a solo structure movement course that I took back in October of 2022. So last year. And definitely a complex thing to have to work through, and not recommended, but might be needed. So definitely recommend you check it out.
Love that. Taking a few notes here. So to
Sure.
kind of go back to, vehicles and movement, do you have anything to say about garage safety? Is that something you all train when you train
A little bit, yeah. So civilian vehicle, well, the vehicle space in our industry is like, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of people with a lot of different thoughts about cars,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's something I'm passionate about. I really enjoy learning how to optimize, self-defense around vehicles. But you see a lot of people just throw myths out and all that kind of stuff. I'm doing a class in March of this year where I'm doing a 3-hour intro to vehicle defense block, and like most of it is going to be vehicle mythbusters, is because there's just so much bad information out there. But yeah, so you think about like parking lot and garage tactics. So a couple things with that. The orientation of your garage is important, whether it's connected to your house is important. But basically, I prefer to back into any garage. So think of pulling off the side of the road, you do the little turn, and then you back into the garage. And that's from, think of something like you got to escape the house quickly. It's just the car, you're late for work, right? It saves you a little bit. It reduces accidents on the way out of your garage. That's a common fender bender location, is people who are late, rushed, all that kind of stuff. They back out of a garage. It's a familiar place that they typically don't have a lot of attentiveness to. Sorry. And they, run over somebody's dog or they hit somebody's car. So if you can back in, that means when you're leaving, you're already oriented forwards. But what it allows is it allows you a little bit of time to scan the environment around your home while you do the backing in part. So you basically get your eyes out versus your eyes in to the confined space. So as we back in, we're now watching for, is there a car that followed me that's now parked in the front of my the front of my driveway or something like that? It's a big warning sign. All of that. A common tactic we see in home invasions, right, is dudes will hide near the house, right? So they'll follow somebody home from the mall that they watched, go spend $5,000 at the Apple store. They follow them home. As that person pulls in the garage, the car full of bad guys, parks. 4 dudes hop out of it and then run under the half-closed garage door, right? And then they're in the house, home invasion, looking for stuff, all that. So it basically gets your eyes reversed on the way in. So I prefer to back in. That's probably, if you could do that, it's going to save you a ton of stuff. Second one is I like to get out of the car as fast as possible. Kind of like we already talked about, right? Once the car's in park, it's no longer a car, right? It's a box, and it doesn't offer you a lot of mobility and all that kind of stuff. So think about it just like you would parking lot tactics of when I hit park, what are the things I need to do? What are the things between me and exit of the vehicle? And if you can reduce those, take your seatbelt off while you're backing up. That means you don't have to take your seatbelt off while you're in park, right? And it allows you to get out of the car very quickly. I know John Correa, Active Self-Protection.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's got a ton of great videos on this. But looking at things like dudes, pulling into their garage, they get those 4 dudes come under the garage door for the home invasion, and they're literally having to fight. They've drawn their gun while in the driver's seat, and they're literally sticking their head out of the driver's side window and firing backwards to get these guys to go away, right? That's a bad spot to try and fight from. So if we can have the car backed in and we can escape the vehicle quickly, it's just going to set you up for success for garage stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm going to call myself out. I personally love hanging out in my car for like an extra second. It's just such a quiet
Ma'am,
space.
come on.
I know. That's why I said I'm calling myself out. So I deal a lot with anxiety around like stimulus or stimuli like overload. So I get to the point where
Sure.
my car is so quiet, I shut everything off. I like to drive without sound sometimes just to like de-stress a little bit. So I do love a good session just sitting there before I have to go to the next thing. Um, and it's weird though. I have a very good like moral compass. I can feel like myself being vulnerable. So I don't do it for long. And if I do it, I'm normally inside of the gates of my private parking lot for my apartment, which is at least another layer of security, but not, a
Sure.
very thick one. So I'm putting myself out there right now because if anyone's listening and they're like, damn, like that sounds like something I'm not willing to give up. Something I'm going to reflect on after this conversation is like, how can I find a space within my home where I can just de-stress without being so vulnerable, like in my car. Sometimes even
Sure. And
between,
and of course,
yeah, go for it. Sorry,
go
go for
ahead.
it.
I interrupted you. Apologize.
No, it's good. I was going to say sometimes I hop in my car between clients, personal training, because I like the gym is loud and I go from like 3 clients back to back and I just want a second to like be away. But I'm going to start finding a spot in the gym where I can do that. So anyway,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Parking lots. I was listening to the, who Tom Givens is, runs a company called Rangemaster. Yeah. I was listening to a hit thing from his years ago where he's like, somebody back in the 60s came up with the term street crime to talk about, robberies and kidnappings and assaults and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, it's really not street crime. If it was all happening in the street, we'd all get run over. It's happening in parking lots. So it really should be called parking lot crime. But by far, when you look at the data, you look at the UCR data for the year and all that kind of stuff, parking lots, transitional spaces with alleyways and outside of shops on streets and stuff like that is overwhelmingly a high risk area. So yeah, we got to optimize safety in those spaces specifically, but you can think about how to modify stuff for yourself, right? Everyone's different, right? We all want to live the life that we want to live. We're not here to live paranoid and ready for attack at any moment. So maybe this may not work for you, but if for somebody who needs to have that like moment in the car before they go in and the 2 kids are screaming and the dog's barking and all that kind of stuff in the house, maybe we can back into the garage and close the garage door in front of us, right? And for that moment, right, like be aware, be on point, be tuned in as the garage door closes. And then once the garage door is closed, now take a little moment, all that kind of stuff, and we can head inside. So yeah, everything can be modified, right? But if you can ideally not have your car be a place that you hang out in for a long period of time, that's plan A.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that because sometimes, like, to call myself out even more, I'll hop on my phone because it's a nice little, like, numbing thing. So it just makes it so much worse.
It's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm learning.
Grace
I'm
to you.
still learning a
Grace to
lot.
you. Not from me, but from somebody else. Yeah, and I do that
Absolutely.
too, right? Like no one here is John Wick, right?
Right. Oh,
So yeah, I've gotten
no.
on my phone, and it's just part of being a modern American adult, right?
Right.
Is we do things, but as long as we have the awareness of like, hey, I know I'm giving something up here. All right. So to be aware of that.
Yes,
We don't want to live life just oblivious to it. And we
absolutely.
work on what we can work on to get it up. This was a debate that I had recently, not a debate, but a discussion. There's a lot of so we're talking about vehicle world has a lot of conflicting opinions, right? There's like different camps of people that say you should always do this, you should never do that, and all this stuff. And there's been a lot of controversy recently about actually firing the gun while seated inside the vehicle, right? So we're seated in the car and we're shooting either through the windshield or through the side window at an adversary, right? Lethal force threat. You get a ton of people who say that is bullcrap, that is, Instagram range theatrics, that it's never going to work. And then you have a bunch of other people who spend, literally half of their vehicle class is on how to shoot from the front seat of the vehicle out. A 4-hour, 8-hour block on only that skill. So there's a big disparity. And these are all big name, highly respected instructors. Like, I'm not talking about anybody who's like obviously a bozo. so there's this debate going on, and for me, what I find is it is something that maybe you shouldn't take up all your time. It's not necessarily a smart tactic, right? You're kind of locked in this box, right? That I say, hey, don't hang out in the car if the car's in park. But there are times that we do that simply enough, right? And if we look at the proximity of the threats that might arise around our vehicle, literally somebody at our side window trying to rip our car door open with a gun in hand as part of carjacking, like what else am I going to do there other than turn and shoot him through the side window, right? It's probably going to be the fastest solution to this problem. Or you think of something like officer ambush in law enforcement. It's a common one of, hey, law enforcement officers are getting ambushed while seated in their patrol vehicle more and more often every year. And that's a really hard problem to solve when the dude just starts shooting at you while you're locked in the box, right? That's almost unsolvable. But we have found people who've been able to turn and shoot while seated in the vehicle. And we find many other guys who are able to get out of the car first and then shoot the bad guy. So there's plenty of different things that need to be trained. I think that is something that does deserve some time, but that is like controversial nowadays. So everybody pick a camp and everybody argue furiously with strangers on the internet over whether or not we should or should not shoot guns inside of cars.
Absolutely. And they should go to your page and argue with you, right?
They should totally go to my page and only comment on my things and give me the engagement, right? And I mean, people literally 100%. Do that. Yeah, engagement's engagement, right?
It is.
Yeah. That's I mean, talk about like gun dummies. I know we talked about it last time, but like the amount of people who are like, this isn't true, and I do this, and I'm like, okay, actually, I could be nice and just say you have your opinion, or I could be kind of a smart aleck and give them a more antagonistic comment. And yeah, exactly.
Or light the candle. Yeah.
11 comments later, I'm like, I got my engagement for the day.
Yes, exactly. One of my friends pointed out, cause Lisa, she was on an episode recently.
Yeah. Her and I have become friends over Instagram, talking about some of the stuff from the podcast. So, yeah.
She mentioned that. Absolutely. I actually got to see her the other day. And before that, though, I FaceTimed her pretty much every day at SHOT, sometimes multiple times a day, to just tell her the stupid shit men said to me and like just some like things, like good things throughout the day and stuff. And we'd catch up. But after I got back from SHOT, obviously while I was at SHOT, she got like a good idea of what my days look like. So she knew I didn't like go and work out when I had planned to, because I was out at social events at night. So she was like, hey, did you see what Chris posted on the gun dummy thing about not working out at SHOT Show? And I was like, what? No. Yep. And I went and looked and I was like, damn it. Like that calls me out so bad. But
sorry.
No, hey, you right. I actually, I will take a quick second to say, like, I am going to make a SHOT Show guide for people who haven't been next year, like probably around like November, December, to like prepare people, because I did not do SHOT right. Like I had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I met some amazing people. I wouldn't take any of that back. I wish I had gone to bed earlier, not felt like, I didn't feel like pressured per se, but I kind of did. Like I wanted to network, and part of that is like being out late into the night. I met more people like standing at a bar than I did like walking around at SHOT, because like people were like more relaxed and open, and you just like happen to run into them.
Alcohol will do that. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, absolutely. And like one guy, I won't mention where he's from because I'm talking about what they were doing, but his wife was kind of like, she was a little confused. She was floating around, and I saw her and I went up and said, are you okay? Like, do you need me to help you find someone? She was like, I just can't find the bar. So I walked her to the bar and I was like, who are you here with? And I tried to like find her partner, and then I hear, there you are. And I turn around, it's these two men, and turns out they're from like a really well-known like marketing company in the gun space. And he gave me his card. He was like, thank you for helping my wife. And that would have never happened at SHOT Show. So I thought that was really interesting.
Hero.
It'd be like that. And so there are some moments like that I wouldn't take back. Although I was just like exhausted the whole time, and I felt like my social battery was drained because I didn't give myself time to like reset. And I have a lot of tips. I want to do like a whole episode on like how to navigate SHOT before SHOT next year for people that are, lucky enough
Awesome.
to go. But yeah, you're
Well,
exactly
I will
right.
watch
Like,
it. I did not go to SHOT Show. Half the gun dummies of me yelling at the people in SHOT Show, I was just jealous,
oh
right?
no,
I
it's
just
so
wasn't at
funny. No,
SHOT Show,
it
and
cracked me up. It's so
well,
true.
yeah. I had a buddy invite me, a couple weeks before. He's like, "Yo, I got a room. You want to come? All that kind of stuff. I'll tell you where to
What?
go, who to meet, all that kind of stuff." And
Yeah.
he's a guy who's been in the industry for well over a decade, so he's pretty well known. And it was like 3 weeks beforehand. I was like, "Bruh, should have told me this in November. Like,
You had some
I have a
classes.
baby and I have like a full-time job and I'm like hustling over here, right?" So I was like, it's not big, no big deal, right? It's SHOT Show. Last year was kind of a, okay, and I've heard it's crowded and it's not great. And then, like, of course, like all of my friends that went said it was the most amazing show ever. And I was like, now I'm just envious. And I'll definitely be going next year.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And if there's anything I can do, you said you have been or you have not before.
I have never been to SHOT Show. No, I went to Vegas when I was like 16. So like couldn't drink, couldn't gamble. And like, that's like my idea of Vegas was like a teenager. And
I actually did the same thing
so I
with
haven't been
my
back
family.
since then. Oh, no way.
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
It's actually, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I felt like I was in a movie the first 2 days I was there. I remember like walking into my room and like jumping up and down because I was like, this is not my life. This is so cool. There's so many colors.
Right.
It smells terrible, obviously, because of the cigarettes and cigars, but unless that's your thing, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's just so much that like within SHOT Show, which was the ultimate, goal, like to walk around and network and be there for a big text ordinance in this case. I wish I would have prepared a little bit more so that I could get the full like experience. So if there's anything, I can do to help you next SHOT Show,
sure,
let me know. There's an app. Great. There's like, you can plan. There are several floors, like things like that like you walk in and you just don't know that yet. So anyway, so for anyone listening who's interested in that, be on the lookout on the Instagram. Otherwise, I'd like to transition to another question I have for you. So this last weekend, I got my NRA firearms instruction certification, which I was like studying for. I was like getting ready for, and a few people had told me it's really not that big of a deal. Like it's really laid back, and I kind of thought, well, I'm going to get that one instructor that like wants me to memorize the book. So I studied as much as I could. And then I got to the class and I could not believe my eyes. And I'm going to try to be as respectful as I can in saying this. So this is me trying. Essentially, here's how I will put it. I helped a woman learn how to hold a gun for the first time at the qualification, like part of the test or the course. And she passed after just like learning how to hold a gun from me showing her. So I no longer, like, I wrote my family, all the women in my family, and was like, hey, if you ever go to a class by an instructor, please do not think that the NRA certification means really much unless, of course not all instructors are created equally. I'm sure there are, some that are like very like serious about the marksmanship portion, but this one was not. And it kind of worried me. And I, anyway, my point in bringing this up is
go ahead.
For anyone listening, like, what would you recommend people look for when it comes to an instructor for firearms? There's my question.
Yeah, vetting an instructor. Yeah, that's a great question, right? So first, Sophie, I was going to ask you about, I saw it on Instagram and I was like, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on the NRA class. So yeah, I'm an NRA basics of pistol shooting certified instructor as the first instructor certification I got. And I was quite disappointed, which is common for people who are serious in this business, is they go to a class like that and, the NRA, it's not there to make masters. It's there to scale the NRA's program. And they have a very scalable program and they're very successful. But it is unfortunate that that class is very poor. It's got a very outdated curriculum. It's a very low barrier to entry, and people can call themselves an instructor after it. It's kind of the short answer. They've got a lot of work to do if they want their certification to mean something, which they can certainly do. I would hope that they could make a better certification. And yeah, I mean, I took their class. I took the USCCA's class, and it's certainly better. I would say the USCCA's is better, not as much as I would like it to be, but the live fire qualification is slightly harder, and the curriculum's more updated. But yeah, I was quite disappointed. I had two instructors that couldn't shoot. They were physically unfit. They were poor teachers, just the art of teaching, and they didn't understand their craft well, and they very much believed that they were what an instructor is supposed to be, and that was quite disappointing. So me and another guy were the only two people that were kind of like looking like we are the two people here who get it, and there's 8 other people here who do not get it. They think they've never taken a professional firearms training class before. They think that this is what instructorship is. Like, you and me get it. And he and I are still friends today. He runs a training company in Arizona. But yeah, that was a class that kind of, I had been a professional student for about 8 years before I had taken that class, and I was appalled, at like, holy cow, like, I thought I knew a little bit because I've been a training nerd for a long time. But yeah, basically the short answer is the NRA certification. Any of the national certifications on instructors, the ones, here's what I'll say positively. Here's the ones that I would say, if a person has this certification, I would probably take a class from them without any other information, right? All other things being equal. If they are a Force Science Institute certified Force Science analyst, that would be a squared away instructor. The Force Science Institute is the national science lab for law enforcement specific, but gunfighting in general. So it's about 40. I think it's 47 like neuroscientists, psychologists, active duty law enforcement officers, and stuff like that put out a bunch of studies. If you want to read, like I think we talked about last time, like studies and data, the Force Science Institute is who did that study with the University of Colorado. So if they're a certified Force Science analyst, the active self-protection instructor course, I think they've gotten 2 or 3 cohorts out now of people who've taken John Correa's active self-protection instructor course. That would certainly be a good one. I am not certified under that, but if they've got that one, I know John's work well enough that would be a great instructor certification to have. Range Master from Tom Givens, if they're a Range Master certified instructor, I would say that's a great baseline. Like, that person they may not be the best, but they know how to teach well, and they know good information to give out overall in general. Other than that, I don't really know of a lot. I mean, I'm taking the vehicle CQB instructor class here in June. So I would say for vehicle tactics, that's an instructor certification that's out there. It's law enforcement specific, but most of it's modifiable to the civilian world. Other than that, yeah, I have a hard time thinking about, the most of the national organization stuff that you see is really, really easy to pass without knowing anything. I'd say that.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I was looking up those courses as you were talking. I'll link those in the show notes so that everyone listening can kind of refer back to that when looking into instructors. Yeah. I've repeatedly heard.
Full disclosure, I am not certified by any of those, so no one gets to take a class from me because I'm not certified in those. Right. But they are on my list. They're on my professional development plan for myself, right?
Right. And besides those titles, you can always look into your instructors, especially with someone like you who puts a lot of their content on social media. You can get a good idea of what they do from their content. I would, just from your content, I wanted to have you on the podcast to talk about this, and I would take a class at a heartbeat if
thank you.
lived closer. I will definitely
I
travel
appreciate
to
that.
you more. I'm finishing an internship for my master's, so I have to stay local with classes right now, but I have so many classes I want to take, and I'm so excited to add that to my list. But yes, I will say the good thing for anyone out there interested in NRA, first of all, it's just a good baseline. It's just good to have it legally. It's good to have if you want to teach on some foundational template. The NRA is good. I learned a lot about class structure, about pricing, things that are not really like common sense that the class was good for. So, and of course, it was nice to connect. The individuals were all very unique people, and they all worked in private security, which is a little scary, I will admit. But for the most part, they were all like honest about where they were at. I don't think it really got to any of their heads, like the class alone. I think they were kind of in the same boat as me when it comes to like, this isn't the end all. I'm not going to say that for everyone, but right. This is the start. Absolutely. And it also gave me some insight to like just personalities in the gun space, like the side I don't see a lot of because I'm on the social media side. I'm on the curated and just the curated side of
the perfect side.
Gun industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing, not to go too far into it, but I am trying to post more like real content on my page, and I get so caught up. It's almost like decision paralysis because I want my content to be really pretty. And I end up like, I have so much content. I've just decided not to post because I don't think it looks good enough. And I'm getting to the point where I'm not posting for weeks. So I don't know if you've hit that wall before.
As someone, I wake up and just pray to Jesus, inspire me, and I'll just scroll my phone until I find a picture and be like, I'll just write that up and I gotta go, So I'm not unfortunately a good content creator, but it's a good point that you bring up so this is something that this is also an important part. If you're an instructor out there, I think this is an important thing to think about is I like to be able to spot people's pedigree. I like to be able to spot someone's background and training history. You should be able to spot that through people's curriculum. This is a industry and a discipline and a martial art that has been approached at from very different angles for a very long time, and that develops certain things that a lot of people just kind of repeat because that's what they were taught. They just kind of say what they were taught and say what they were taught and say what they were taught. And you can have someone for 30 years can go by, and the person could be teaching the same thing as it gets passed down their pedigree line, right? So you can look at instructors and say, okay, that's a gun sight style instructor. They, think of John, or Jeff Cooper and gun sight, very traditional, orthodox, modern technique of the pistol, Weaver stance, slow, ready, different things that came out of gun sight. Or you could say, this person is a Magpul Dynamics style instructor. Did you ever watch the Magpul Dynamics videos?
That bad?
Girl, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say girl, but ma'am. That's like, oh, you're missing a huge part. Go watch them. They're pirated on YouTube. Okay. Go watch them tonight. But
wait, what is it? Say it again.
So Magpul, the company Magpul, right?
Yes,
they had a training wing for years and years and years, and they started a lot of the really fancy, really flashy, tactical type of training of looking really dramatic and all that kind of stuff. They came out with a set of DVDs of, a carbine DVD and a pistol DVD and a shotgun DVD and stuff like that. And Chris Costa and Travis Haley were there too, instructors. And those two guys both have huge training companies nowadays, but it kind of launched this whole wing of the training world that focuses on certain things and certain ways to train, certain drills. All kind of came out of that. So sorry for calling you. I shouldn't say girl.
No. For real. I was going to say, you're completely fine. I think it's hilarious. I go for it.
Sure.
Seriously.
Gotcha. But either way, so, Magpul Dynamics, or, a very big part of our industry is driven from, Delta Force, Tier 1 special operations guys in the Army that, built training programs for different military units, and then retired and started a training company. And they were kind of instantly launched to success. They instantly had sold out classes around the country. And they travel around and teach similar style things of practical shooting and certain types of tactics and stuff. So once you're well rounded enough to be able to spot that in other people, I would say you have enough varying perspective to have an original opinion. Very often I see people who only do one of those paths, and they start a training company because they think they know something, right? And they know their curriculum, right? But they know one perspective on how to do things. And this is a big world, and you can take good stuff from all of those different disciplines. So, that's always a game that I like to play with myself. Like I've gone up to students like, okay, I know what specific unit you were in because of the drill that you just ran. And they didn't tell anybody what military unit they were from. So once you become good enough at it, you can really start, see where people come from in this world.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. I just Googled, and put in YouTube Magpul Dynamics, and I'm excited to watch them.
That's like, so, I'll continue on this tangent, but,
Go for it.
a big, big part of the shooting world nowadays is video games. The video game culture has been just perfected over the course of about 20 years by the large video game manufacturers. And they're really, more money goes into video games and revenue than Hollywood and, music and all that kind of stuff combined. So we have a giant demographic of, teenage kids that play video games all day, and they play first person shooter games, and they play, games with guns in them. And the more accurate the guns are, the more the game is cool and all that kind of stuff. I mean, literally, and I say that from experience, like I was a video game nerd for years, growing up, and got into, this is the gun that's in Call of Duty, Dad. Like, can we buy this one? That was me. Right.
Right.
And that part of the industry was really not served well until something like the late 2010s, 2017, 18, 19, something like that, where we started to say, hey, we can start to get these kids who are really into guns into the gun industry really well, and serve them with online content that's good educational content and stuff. So I think people like Lucas Botkin, T-Rex Arms, he gets a bunch of controversies. A bunch of people love him, a bunch of people hate him. But he cracked the code on how to sell real guns and body armor and medical kits and night vision goggles to kids who like video games. And it's a multi-million-dollar industry, right? So being able to serve those people well and get them into our training world, effectively with good training, with modern tactics and modern skills and stuff, is a big demographic that I think a lot of people are underserving.
That's a wonderful topic. I never thought I would have on the podcast. So thank you for talking about that. I think it's come up, I think it came up in Lisa's episode where we talked about unsafe gun handling and how some people come into the range thinking they know about real guns from video games.
Sure. So, yep.
Yeah.
And that's true too, and well, here's the thing. So I actually had this happen last week. I think I had a private client, husband and wife, basic pistol class, took them through things and stuff. And we get out on the range, and the wife is really struggling with how iron sights work. She really wants to look at the target and kind of depress the gun. I think you guys on the video content see my little orange gun. Really wants to have the gun down by her chest, look at it like a ramp up into the target, right, versus actually aligning the sights effectively. So she's having his back, and we're working through them. And the gentleman, sights right in the middle, every bullet in the same hole. It's all great, right? And he's like, yeah, I play a lot of video games. Like, I know what a sight picture looks like. And I'm like, cool. Like, the amount of kids who know how to use a red dot, because red dots are on all the video games, So certain things that translate really well. But obviously that doesn't replace good, high quality training,
Of course. No, that makes a lot of sense. I've been impressed by some of the Call of Duty, excuse me. My fiance and I play together. I still suck at them though. I am learning.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's definitely
I
a very steep learning
I
curve.
yeah, I mean, I was a big video game nerd for a long, long time. I think we talked about it on the last episode, but I went to a military service academy for college, and freshman year, there's a bunch of rules you got to follow, and you got to do all these dumb things while you're a plebe, right? Is the term. But one of them is you couldn't have any video games, couldn't have no social media access, no all this different stuff, and I had to kind of like quit. We had to do some dumb stuff. Yeah, we could talk about it. Like couldn't walk outdoors. Couldn't walk outdoors. You're outdoors, you're running. Run to class, all that kind of stuff. You had to only walk in right angles. Couldn't walk in a curve. Literally, you have to walk 6 inches away from the right hand wall and reach the corners of rooms and do a facing movement to walk down the next wall, to then do a facing movement to walk down the next wall. If you want to walk to the other side of the room, you can't walk across the middle of a room. It's called squaring corners. Yeah, look up the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy and the plebe rules, and they're quite fun. So either way, couldn't have any video games, and kind of just quit cold turkey and stuff. And then after that, I was in a place that I just didn't have enough free time to play video games. And then, became an adult, and again, multiple jobs, and got a baby at home and stuff like that. So I've just never gotten back into it. But it certainly is a fun deal, and it's much bigger today than it was even when I was a kid, 10, 15 years ago.
Right. No, that's really interesting. So yeah, you have a very good perspective, just, like foundation to speak on that topic. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm trying to get one of the guys I met at SHOT Show, Tony from Real World Tactical. He has a Call of Duty character based on him. Trying to drag him on the podcast. When we were like out at night, I was like, hey man, you got to come on my podcast. And he was like, okay. So I'm trying to hold him to that and get him on. That's something I didn't even think to ask him about, but I wonder what he'll have to say about that.
I'd be interested. I would definitely be interested to get his thoughts on how, real world instructors are getting into the video game world and serving it positively. I think that'd be a really cool episode.
Absolutely. And he's such a nice guy. I had some interesting experiences there with men, but he was one of the good ones. I will say that. He was
I'm sorry to hear that.
Me too. It was interesting. Another thing, next year for SHOT Show, I'll either be taking Lisa or Caleb or both, but I'm not going alone. So I don't think, now that I think about it, Lisa.
Oh, you went alone. Okay.
I went alone.
Yeah.
I did. Okay. Yeah. That, I am all about, like, I lived in Spain alone for a while. Like, I'm not scared to go places alone. I actually love, like, I romanticize it, and I have fun with it. There's, I like to, like, experience it fully. But there were points like where I was like, I should not have done this. And to be honest, Caleb and I had this conversation before I left, and we thought about making it a little vacation together. But I told him, I was like, I'm not going to have time. Like, I'm there for a different brand, and I'm going to need to like walk around and network the whole time. So you'll just be waiting in my room for me. And he was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, I'll go a different time. And he loves working, but just loves to work. So he was like, I get to work the whole time you're gone. And because he just got his paramedic license. So he was like, I won't want to be gone from that. I remember writing him like pretty much every night and being like, can you just hop on a plane and just come here, please? Like, I need you to like, be my guard.
Buddy system. Buddy system works. All right. I'll say that.
Yeah, I didn't walk alone a lot. I walked Adelina. I'm going to have her on too soon. Adelina May. That's her name on Instagram. She owns Girls Just Want to Have Guns. That's her shooting company.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Amazing woman, competition shooter. I think she might do 3-gun. I'm not totally sure. I think she's starting a podcast soon too. But anyway, just little like shout out to her because she like went shopping with me and helped me around SHOT Show. So I was very lucky to have her. Otherwise, I would have probably gone a lot of places alone. But I'm rambling. All of this to say,
no, you're good.
Absolutely loved this episode. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think it would even go this long because we covered so many good topics in part 1, but this is another golden one for the record. And I'm looking forward to you coming on after you take that certification course, if you want to just do a whole episode on vehicle.
Yeah, totally. I'd be happy to do vehicle specific stuff another time. No, thank you for having me on. I think this went wonderfully. You know, I know we got to dive into a ton of different stuff. Any topics that we didn't that we wanted to cover that we didn't?
No, those were all of my questions. I'm sure I'll listen to this later and be like, damn it, I want to talk about this. But as far as like the notes I had, no. But I do like to end with a little tidbit on any advice you'd like to give the listeners.
That's a good question. Any advice I'd like to give the listeners? I mean, you know, take your training seriously, right? Get good training out there. I think a lot of people, especially if you're going to become an instructor, like if you think you're going to become an instructor, if that's something that you want to do, that's something that should take all of your effort, right? People are trusting you with life and death, literally. So phoning that in, I don't think is a good deal, and pursue the discipline, you know, effectively and treat it seriously. It's a high honor to be an instructor in this game. So, but yeah, you know, train hard, work on the dry fire stuff that we talked about, different start positions and stuff like that. Play around with how you actually carry things. Keep things in context for how you do things. You know, if you hear some guy say, hey, you should do it this way, but he was a, you know, special operations military guy and he did it in a convoy of weird, you know, it's like, oh, that's not my context. Right. So keep things in context. And yeah, thank you for having me on. I look forward to part 3 here later this year.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for coming on. I know you have a lot to balance right now. And yeah, I know you handed off your daughter right before this episode, so I know you're excited to get back to
okay.
her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course. And for anyone interested in the full exclusive video, you can join the Patreon. For episode highlights, you can head over to the Instagram and TikTok at SheShieldPod. One of the videos got taken down on TikTok, so I kind of paused on there for a second, but we're going to ramp that back up soon. We as in me, but and a special thank you to Sagetta Gear, the official sponsor of SheShield. For concealed carry and duty gear, you can use code SheShield10 for 10% off your Sagetta Gear order and to support the pod. All resources mentioned in the episode, as usual, will be in the show notes, which are the notes below the title. And if you like the podcast, you can help by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. Thank you so much for listening. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant.